Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today I want to take a look at some of the bugs that have popped into the game over the past couple of weeks, including with the patch today, which seems to have caused bridge officers like Superior Romulan Operative and the Watchers to no longer stack upon entry to a map. So I want to take a close look at all of that and go over some of the potential workarounds that people have found and see if they actually work. So as always, chapters to everything will be listed down below. And I want to start off here with the issues that popped up with the patch today regarding bridge officers not stacking. So if you look at your ship after the patch, you'll have seen that your crit chance numbers are quite a bit lower than they were prior to the patch. And this is because upon entering a map, your bridge officers are not stacking. Now, the potential workaround is to deslot and reslot all of your bridge officers. So that seems to be affecting it, at least on the stats page here, but I'm going to test to see if that's actually impacting things in actual gameplay. And a couple other notes here. This is not a new issue, rather this is a long-term issue that has been around since they started putting the Elite Bridge Officer token stuff into the game back in 2022. And the other part of this bug is that bridge officers get access to their racial traits. So if you're on a Romulan captain using Romulan SROs, then your Romulans are actually giving you both Superior Romulan Operative plus Romulan Operative. So this is a bug, again, that has been around for a fairly long time. In fact, I did a video going over this exact issue back in July of 2022. And for those of you that pay attention to the DPS scene, this is an issue that we were going back and forth on for quite some time in 2022. So the first thing here you can see is my crit chance is currently at 37.6, and what I'm going to do now is deslot all of these, and I'm going to then go through and reslot them to see if that resolves the crit chance issues that I'm seeing here. And I'm going to take a picture when I have all of these bridge officers off to fully show what my actual base crit chance is here. So my base crit chance number before bridge officers is actually 33.1%. I'm going to slot my Reman that has Superior Romulan Operative on it here. So let me find that. Now, given that this one is a Reman, it is not going to have the issue with the racial trait where it's getting Romulan Operative plus Superior Romulan. It should just have SRO. And if I look at my stats here, it actually is still giving a bit more crit chance than it's supposed to. I went up by 3% instead of just 2%. So even there, that's giving a little bit more than it should have. Now I'm going to slot the next one. And with this one, you should see that the number goes up by 3.5% because this is an actual like Romulan bridge officer. And sure enough, you can see I went from 36.1 up to 39.6. If I slot another science here, or another SRO, 30 or 43.1, another SRO, 46.6, and with this last SRO, I should be just over 50%. Find an SRO here. And there you go. Now I went from 33% crit chance and 135 severity up to 50% crit chance and 177 severity. So I got quite a bit more crit chance than I should have. I should only be at 43% crit chance and 160 severity, but clearly I am far exceeding those numbers. Now, the issue that we're specifically seeing here with the patch today is that when you load into a map, it is wiping away all of the stacking on your bridge officers, and you have to do exactly what I did there, deslot them and reslot them to make your crit chance numbers reappear on the stats window. So I'm going to beam back into new ROM here. And what you're going to see is I'm back at that 30-something% crit chance number. And sure enough, I am missing about 12.5% of the crit chance that I had after reslotting the bridge officers. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go in and do Jupiter Gauntlet a couple times, and I'm going to come back to you guys with numbers for what my crit chance was over the 3 runs where I didn't reslot the bridge officers, and then I'll do another 3 runs where I've reslotted them, and we'll see if that is just a visual issue on the stats window, or if I am actually missing that crit chance. And the results are that you are actually losing crit chance if you do not reslot your bridge officers. So this is something that they will hopefully have fixed sooner rather than later. Again, like I was saying, this is an issue that's been on and off for a couple years now. But as you can see in the runs where I did not reslot my bridge officers, my average crit chance was significantly lower than at the runs where I did. So if you really want to have all your crit chance in each run, then what you need to do is like create a loadout that has no bridge officers on it, and then go in and reslot them one by one, and you'll have your crit chance back at its normal values. Unfortunately, you can't just create a loadout that has no bridge officers and then swap back to your loadout that does have your normal build on it. I tried this and it just doesn't work. You do actually have to go in and fully take your bridge officers off, and then go in and reslot them to get your crit chance and severity and all that back. So again, it's annoying. I expect that they'll probably have it fixed again here soon, especially given that this is something that they've been battling for the past couple of years. But just know that if you do want to go in and reslot your bridge officers, you have to do that every single time that you enter a map. So every single TFO where you want your crit chance, you have to go through and reslot them. So a bit annoying, and hopefully one that does not stick around too much longer. Next up, we have the Pahvo set, and specifically here, it is the three-piece that is the big issue. The three-piece is meant to reduce the cooldown of the two-piece by 60 seconds, but when you actually put the three-piece on, what it does is it gives cooldown reduction to everything on your build. So as you can see here, my cannons went from a 3-second recharge down to 1.4 seconds. And when I hit a bridge officer ability, it's immediately at its minimum cooldown. And that applies to every other ability that I hit instantly at their like minimal cooldown. So everything on your build's impacted by it. Domino, the Iwani console, DPRM, everything you have is getting cooldown reduction from this Pahvo 3-piece. And for the Pahvo Set console, there are a few issues here. The main one is that the proton damage does not actually appear to be applying right now. So if I look at the proton beam array that I have on my ship, when I equip this console, you'll see that the number doesn't actually go up. So that is a bug there. The firing cycle haste on the console does work, the 8%. And for the -3 seconds on shared cooldown of cannon firing modes, this will not apply to, like, if you're running 2 copies of CSV, you can't use this to have 100% uptime on CSV. Instead, what this does is if you're running CSV and you hit it, it will put your CRF at a 12-second shared cooldown instead of 15 seconds. So if you were looking to alternate between those 2 firing modes for some reason, then that console would assist you in doing that. But if you're looking to use this console as a way to have cannon scatter volley up a bit more, it doesn't work in that way. Next up is Flagship staffing. This is the Starship trait from the Iwani, and the issue with this one is that when you activate it, it is resetting the cooldown of everything on your build to either the minimal cooldown or to no cooldown at all. So I'm going to go through and activate my tray here. You can see everything's going on cooldown. I'll activate a couple consoles as well. And when I hit Aux to Sif, which will trigger Flagship staffing, you can see that I now have everything at a minimal cooldown, and all of my consoles are available to use instantly again. So that is the main issue with this, is that it is able to reset the cooldown on everything, not just the non-spec firing modes, which is very much not what they intended with it. The other issue with this is that it does specify that it can apply to allied targets with an S at the end there, but the only thing that we have found so far that allows this to apply to multiple players is Needs of the Many. When we try to use this with like engineering team and science team with the team synergy trait on, which applies your team abilities to everyone around you, it does not work with that. Only you will end up getting the buff from this. So the main issue, of course, is that it is resetting cooldowns, but the other issue here is that it's not fully functioning the way that it's advertised here, or at least it's not interacting with some of the AoE heals that we have out there, like Team Synergy with the Injure Side team. So, few issues there. And one of them is obviously much more important to have resolved, having the ability to go in and reset all cooldowns to 0. Uh, that's just very unbalanced. Next up is the Iwani console here, and the issue with this is that every 3 seconds it has a 60% chance to apply a firing mode, and originally this was not overriding your firing modes, but as of a patch a week or so back, it is overriding cannon, scatter volley, and torp spread. So I want to just give a quick demonstration of that. If I hit cannon scatter volley, and then I go and hit the Iwani console, what you'll see is that it'll sometimes swap over to rapid fire, like you see there. And if you look at my torp here, you'll see that sometimes it changes over to the visual for a high yield instead of a torp spread, like right there. So it's not doing that for fire at will, but it is for cannon scatter volley and torp spread, which is obviously a bit annoying. It has made this console very difficult to use on a cannon scatter volley build over the past week or so now, because rapid fire is just such an incredibly weak firing mode. You don't want to have your cannon scatter volley overwritten by that rapid fire. That's a big DPS loss there. So it's really a shame because this console does have a very powerful firing cycle haste buff on it, but in its current state, for a lot of people, it's simply not usable because of it overriding the firing modes that you have active at the time. Next up are the Elite Type 7 pets off of the Iwani. So as you see here, they are supposed to have attack pattern beta 3, but what you're going to see is that when I actually let them start attacking enemies here, that they're only applying an attack pattern beta 1. So I'm going to set them to attack here, and you're going to see it's just attack pattern beta 1. You can see 3 stacks of beta 1 so far, 4, and then there's all 6. So Bosun Sensor Pass is the correct rank, but the attack pattern beta is not. So these pets, while they are very impactful, even in their current state, are actually underperforming right now because they don't have access to the correct rank of attack pattern beta. And as such, each of them is applying only 30 debuff from beta instead of the 50 that they should be. And this one's a fairly minor issue, but it is that the Disassembler emitter off of the Atlantis is labeled as doing physical damage. You look at it in the combat log here, and it does specify it is actually doing physical damage, but there's a minor typo on it where it does say it's doing radiation damage. So just a small typo there that may cause some confusion. And then the Fusion Cutting Beam console here, a lot of people have had issues with this thing actually tracking onto targets. And because of that, the performance from it has just generally not been that good. And I'll go show a clip of that real quick. Okay, and here's some footage of the Fusion Cutting Beam console. Again, it says here that it is going to track the ship's primary target and sweep around the battlefield, damaging foes over time in a line. So let's take a look at it. I'm targeting the Sarthine warship. And you can see I continue to have that as my primary target, but it is not chasing it. And for the targets it is hitting, it's really not doing that much damage. So it just, as you can see there, just is not tracking, and that is not helping with its poor overall DPS performance. And the last thing I want to talk about today is the Starship trait off of the Duderstadt, the active EPS management. And this trait, as far as I can tell, doesn't appear to actually be working at all right now. So when you use reroute reserves weapons or an energy weapon firing mode, so like beam overload, CSV, etc., you should be getting a 25% Cat 2 energy weapon damage buff. But if I put this on my build and I hit a beam overload, what you're going to see is that my cannons are not getting a damage buff. And the last time I checked, beam overload was still in energy weapon firing mode. So I'm going to hit beam overload here, and nothing. No change at all for my cannons. So again, as far as I can tell, the trait from the Duderstadt here, like 5-6 weeks out from it being put into the game, is still not functioning. And one last thing that I almost forgot to mention here is that the test dummies over on the Tribble test map have been gone now since around September of 2023. And without these, there's no good way for us to really be able to go in and test new things from a player point of view. We don't really have static test dummies that are available to all factions over on the live server. There are some maps here or there that work on the Fed side, but I haven't found one for the KDF side where there's just a static target that I can keep shooting at infinitely. If anyone happens to know one, then please let me know down below. But without the test map here, that has hindered the ability for myself and others to effectively go in and test things from the player side. And that's going to be it for today. If I missed anything from the recent additions to the game, then feel free to drop them down below. But I just want to give a quick rundown on the latest issue that we're seeing with the patch here with the bridge officers, and also go over some of the other issues that I've seen with some of the new stuff put into the game over the past month or so. Again, that's going to be it for today. Thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. See you guys around.